Hello! Hey everyone, thank you to all of you who patiently waited for this video upload. I missed you all so much while on my break, but I'm back now. As many of you know, YouTube is my little creative outlet, so I decided to take a break to recharge my creativity and to remember the reason I started YouTube. So without further ado, let's dive right into the setup. When I was thinking about what I wanted to do for my October theme, I first thought about doing something autumn or Halloween related. Although I do love autumn because it's hoodie weather, I was thinking that I wanted to do something more Halloween related. I'm not really into scary things in terms of Halloween, so instead I thought about how people dress up in costumes for Halloween, which finally led me to thinking about costume designs in musical theater. I love musicals, and Hamilton is definitely one of my favorites. Also, Hamilton was released on Disney Plus in July this year, so it felt kind of perfect to do a Hamilton theme. If you don't know, Hamilton tells the life story of Alexander Hamilton and how his ambition led him to becoming an American war hero and later to shape America. On the cover, I did the outline of the Hamilton logo, but I wrote October 2020 where it would usually say Hamilton. I used a golden yellow Tombow to do the letters and also to do the detail of the buttons on the jacket. Then it was just coloring it in with a black fine liner. I made sure to go around the yellow carefully with a thinner fine liner first before using my thicker fine liner. I was a little nervous that the fine liner would bleed through the paper, but it was totally fine, and I'd say that there was minimal ghosting. If you haven't seen Hamilton, then I'd highly recommend it. It's probably one of my favorite musicals because the music is amazing and the performance is phenomenal. The music draws from a wide variety of styles, including hip-hop and R&B. Some of my favorite characters include Lafayette and Angelica Schuyler, but really the entire cast did a great job. I almost had the opportunity to watch Hamilton live when it was touring in my hometown, but that summer I ended up doing an internship out in Seattle. I feel really lucky though that I was able to watch it on Disney Plus. The movie was already incredibly impactful, so I can only imagine how much more it would have been live. I also loved that since it was a movie, you got to see the facial expressions of the actors more clearly. I decided to use a bunch of lyrics from some of my favorite songs in Hamilton throughout this setup, and for the quote page, I chose the lyrics from Alexander Hamilton that go, "There's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait." I felt like these lyrics went with the beginning of a month because the lyrics remind me of the feeling of starting something new. I always feel like there's a lot of new content that I want to bring to my channel or new things that I want to try at the beginning of each month. To complement the lyrics, I drew them on a tan banner and then colored in the shadows with a black fine liner. I love how simple this quote page is, and it looks really good with the logo on the other page. On the monthly calendar, I started by lettering October, and then I tried my best to outline the lettering and then to add a bit of a drop shadow to the letters. I added yellow stars in the corner of the page as well. Next, I used a ruler to draw the calendar outline and to section off the corner of each square where I'll be writing the day in the yellow corner. I finished off the calendar portion by adding a blue drop shadow to the calendar. I decided throughout this month that I was going to mostly be using blue and yellow to match Hamilton's jacket. Then I wrote Hamilton on the side to fill the empty space, and in the empty space at the top, I wrote the lyrics, "We rise and we fall and we break and we make our mistakes." The lyrics come from the song Wait For It. I actually used more lyrics from this song in one of my monthly spreads later because I really liked the meaningful lyrics. Plus, Leslie Odom Jr. did an amazing job playing the role of Aaron Burr. This monthly spread was not bad, but I don't really like how the O came out in October, yet you sometimes just have to make it work. Like the lyrics say, we make mistakes, but that's okay. On the expense tracker, I wrote out expenses in a serif font and then outlined the title with a blue border. Then I chose to use 2 yellow mild liners to highlight every other line before finishing it off with the headings that read date, description, and amount. I usually like to highlight every other line because it lets me find what amount goes with what description quickly. For the habits tracker, I used the same serif font and outline for the title. After that, I just did a basic tracker listing the days vertically and then writing the 12 habits I wanted to track along the top. I finished off the habit tracker with lyrics from 2 different songs. The first is Rise Up, which comes from the song My Shot, and the second is You'll Be Back, which is the song title of the song that the king sings. I thought that his character was hilarious and had to include at least a small nod to his character. I felt like these songs went really well with a habit tracker too. For the first time ever, I decided to add a page for a gratitude log in my bullet journal. I'm hoping that this will eventually just be pages filled with good memories that I can look back on. I colored the bottom right corner of the spread as if it were a torn piece of paper. I like to use a scrap piece of paper underneath my page to make sure that I'm not drawing on other pages of my journal. I also included the lyrics, look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now, which are the lyrics that Eliza sings in That Would Be Enough. I wanted the lyrics written on the gratitude log in order to remind myself to take a break every so often and to be able to look at everything around me that I'm thankful for in my life. Before I start my first weekly spread, I want to say that this spread is not an original, but a design by Bujo here on YouTube. I'll leave the link to her Hamilton-themed bullet journal in the description below. Her design was beautiful, and I couldn't miss the opportunity to recreate it. She drew the jacket as the border of the page, which was made up of simple lines and circles. I did the outline first, and then colored in the blue on the jacket and the yellow for the buttons. I finished by adding detail to the buttons where there would be light reflected. It was a black line on the top, and then a white line on the bottom of each button. Then I drew these boxes with the yellow corners for the days of the week. I don't think I've mentioned this before on my channel, but I participated a lot in musical theater throughout middle school and high school. My mom encouraged me to audition for the first time in 6th grade when my church started a theater ministry. I had a lot of fun just being in the chorus and having the opportunity to sing and dance. When I got to high school, I moved to working backstage and eventually became the stage manager for my high school productions. Backstage was also tons of fun working with my friends. Sometimes I really miss being part of a theater production and get the sudden urge to want to sing or learn a dance. Overall though, theater was probably the one activity that broke me out of my shell. I used to be extremely shy, but everyone I met during theater was welcoming that I warmed up quickly to them. I also probably wouldn't be able to sit in front of a camera and to talk if not for theater. The finishing touch for this spread were the lyrics, I am not throwing away my shot. On the next spread, I drew wine glasses in the middle of the page. The glasses were pretty simple outlines, and then I used 2 different shades of red for the wine in the glass to give it more depth. I included lyrics from 3 different songs that all happened at around the same point in the show, but I felt like they all related to these wine glasses. I first wrote The Sky's the Limit for Eliza's song Helpless. Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite songs, especially after hearing the performance of it on Jimmy Fallon. I swear that Philippa Sue's voice sounds even better in that performance. It's insane. I love it. Next, I had to include I Will Never Be Satisfied for Angelica's song Satisfied. I really loved her character, and this song was so perfect. Finally, I wrote Raise a Glass to Freedom, which comes from the song Story of Tonight. I love the melody of the song and how well the voices blended together. I drew the outline of the boxes again for the days of the week with the yellow corners. On the next spread, I started with drawing the boxes for the days of the week. I ended up using the same style box with the yellow corners, but I loved how simple it was and it felt like it really brought the theme together well. I drew a street lamp and wrote the lyrics, I'm willing to wait for it. Life doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes. Like I mentioned earlier, I used lyrics from Wait For It again because I loved it so much. I think sometimes we often forget to slow down and recognize that life continues to move on, so we should be thankful for what we have and to be patient with life. For the final spread, I wanted to include lyrics from another one of my favorite songs, Dear Theodosia. I was inspired to make the drawing a letter, so I drew a feather quill first. Did they even write with feather quills? I don't know, but I made sure when drawing the feather portion to draw it really bumpy by using small strokes to get it to be more like a feather. I used a different shade of brown for the underside of the paper, and I decided to draw the boxes for the days of the week while letting the drawing dry. When I finished, I wrote Dear October instead of Dear Theodosia, but then I wrote the lyrics, What to Say to You? Yeah, you'll blow us all away, someday, someday. I loved that during the song, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Leslie Odom Jr. had beautiful harmonies, and I could really hear the emotions of two fathers trying to build a better world for their children. Seriously, all of the music in Hamilton is amazing. It was really hard to pick my favorite songs to use for the setup, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. Please watch Hamilton if you haven't already. I promise you won't be disappointed. Again, thank you for all of your patience and for sticking with me, my friends. I'll see you again soon.